I'm pleased to see this bill seek to fill the gaps in the current Armed Forces Covenant, and I should declare a personal interest as my husband Paul is a Royal Navy veteran, my daughter Abby is a current Army reservist, I'm a member of the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme, and my husband is the Armed Forces Champion at Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council. My husband's last day of service was the day before we married, denying me, of course, those amazing wedding photographs. But primarily, the reason that he decided to come out before we married was because at that time, support for families was weak. He told me he didn't want to be receiving a Dear John letter or miss the birth of his children. The Armed Forces Covenant was supposed to fix that, but I've heard from service families that it's not yet the case. One of the clearest examples of where families feel let down is in education. And although our schools are required to prioritise the children of military personnel in their admissions, and they do, so many children with special educational needs fall through the net. The process is supposed to take a matter of months, as we know, but often takes closer to a year, and many children find themselves moved from one local authority to another partway through that system, needing to repeat assessments and lengthening delays. And we know that specialist school places are as rare as unicorn manure, and I've heard many families feel that they can't move with their serving member as they can't afford to risk that change. So I hope that the Minister will work carefully alongside the Department for Education on this. Of course.
For giving way. I just wanted to really indicate that what she's saying there is so important, I think more important than party politics. It fundamentally has to be the case that as we work to fix the SEND system, we bear in mind the unique circumstances of those who serve our country. And I just wanted to thank her for raising that point today, because it's really important.
Vicky Slade.
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention. I've met service children as I've gone round my schools, and I always pay special attention to the service that they're giving through their parents being away. But it isn't just in education. We know that dentistry is in crisis, and Dorset has often been mentioned as a dental desert. And while serving personnel can access excellent GP and dental services on their bases, it doesn't extend to the spouses and children. Most NHS dentists are now closed to new patients in my area, so families arriving in the county face the prospect of losing their dentist. So I'd like to ask the Minister if he's considering extending service dentists to support the wider Armed Forces family, or how he will work with the Department of Health to amend NHS contracts, because dentists are private businesses within the system, and therefore they're not within the scope, as I understand it, of the Armed Forces Covenant. We must ensure these children are not disadvantaged by regular moves around the country. And that brings me to the quality of accommodation, which has a significant effect on well-being too. I welcome the Defence Housing Service and the commitment to upgrade 90% of the military family homes. But when we turn to single-person and training facilities, the problems of housing is immense. Through my involvement with the AFPS, I've visited numerous establishments, Royal Navy, Royal Marine and Army, and I'm constantly shocked by the experience shared with us of no running water, cold showers and toilets that don't flush. Now, I recognise that our incredible military will be living in far more basic circumstances when on manoeuvres, but it simply isn't acceptable for their day-to-day lives. So what plans does he have for the upgrade of single-persons accommodation and training establishments which are not covered? I'm concerned that if it comes from individual budgets, commanding officers cannot be expected to choose between equipment to keep our military safe and safe military accommodation. Another aspect of the bill that raises interesting questions is the extension of the Special Reserve. And I know that some members of the Armed Forces that previously served will be more than happy to go back and do their bit. But there are some that don't feel that way, and one resident told me that he believes he's done his fair share and does not see why he should be called back up until the age of 65. I know my own husband would be very happy to go back, although I suspect from his recent attempts to get fit, he's very unlikely to reach the threshold. So could the Minister outline what assessment his department has done on how many of these cohort will be physically able to serve and what else they might be able to do to serve their country? Of course.
Rachel Taylor.
Could I recommend Armed Forces Minister to regularly run park run with your husband. It may get him up to some level of fitness that goes somewhere near his, but it won't quite achieve that.
I thank my honourable friend for that comment, and given that I've just discovered that the Armed Forces Minister's children live in my constituency, I may well take him up on that offer. So, taking it to a more sober point, against this backdrop, it's important to remember why this all matters, and the Armed Forces Minister knows the person I'm about to speak about. In light of the disgraceful comments of President Trump last week, I want to put on record my thanks to all those who choose to serve, to the families whose lives are turned upside down, and in particular to those like my constituent Toby Guttridge, a Royal Marine and member of the Special Forces from Poole, who survived a catastrophic injury in Afghanistan, leaving him paralysed from the neck down. Despite being permanently reliant on a ventilator, he has gone on to achieve academic qualifications, including a first-class honours degree from Bournemouth University, forming a charity called Bravery, and inspiring others through his public speaking. For anyone in doubt about the sacrifices our troops make and their immense bravery, can I recommend his book, Never Will I Die, which I now understand is set to be turned into a film about his life and service. His story is a reminder of the resilience at the heart of our armed forces community and underlines why we must all ensure the facilities, care and equipment that support our service personnel match their dedication. And I look forward to supporting the government as they progress this bill and seeking ways to improve it wherever we can.